rather more personal setting, if I may, and let's bring the conversation to Nigeria. I've looked across the Nigerian press, I've listened to people from the National Assembly, and I've also looked at some records coming out of the courts in your country and in America as well, and there are serious allegations concerning you and your family and corruption and kickbacks.
Now,
are you prepared to face those charges and to give a full accounting?
Very, very much so. Very much so. And if you have any evidence, Steve, please show it to me, and I will defend myself anywhere in the world.
Well,
because what you are saying is absolute nonsense, without due respect. I am the only leader in Nigeria that has been examined and reported upon by the anti-corruption bodies in Nigeria. I am the only one.
When your successor took over, he described corruption in the country as endemic, and he said it was the country's elite that was responsible.
Well, he is one of them.
One of what?
He is one of Nigeria's elite.
Of course he is, and he's saying, as he takes over and looks at what is happening inside government, there is corruption to the very top. That doesn't reflect well on you.
He said that. Did he mention Obasanjo? Did he mention Obasanjo, Steve?
But you were the president.
You were
responsible for the governance of your country.
No, I'm not responsible for the corruption of every Nigerian.
Not every Nigerian, but you are, in the end, the chief executive of a country which your own successor says is endemically corrupt.
You have made strong allegation against me personally, and against my family.
I'm coming to that.
And you have no way to substantiate it. Substantiate it. And if not that this is something where you are taking undue advantage, I will have even say that.
Let's talk.
I will go beyond here.
Well, let's talk specifics then. Halliburton and various Halliburton subsidiaries have paid vast amounts of money in fines in the United States because of bribes and corruption paid out to Nigerian officials. And if one takes the testimony...
Are those Nigerian officials, am I one of them?
Well, let's talk about that.
Am I one of them?
Albert Jack Stanley confessed last year in the United States to bribing, and this is according to a U.S. court document, quote, 3 successive holders of a top-level office in the executive branch of the Nigerian government. He negotiated with these office holders representatives regarding the amount of bribes that would be paid. Now, if one cross-checks that, I'm coming to that, if one cross-checks that with the testimony before a French prosecutor, Jeffrey Tesla, another Halliburton agent involved, I'm sure you know these names, he named you as one of 3 successive Nigerian heads of state who'd been involved in negotiations with the Halliburton subsidiaries, which were later in a U.S. court found to have been guilty of bribes and corruption on a massive scale.
Tesla will never say that. Tesla,
it's in the French record.
Let Tesla bring out because by the time when you say somebody is guilty of corruption, there must be the giver, there must be the taker, and there must be the evidence.
Did you have communication with Jeffrey Tesla?
No.
Never?
No.
Absolutely never. Despite anything he has testified.
Not me personally.
As you know, he's been arrested. And the U.S. is now seeking his extradition. Are you worried about what he may say in a U.S. court?
I am not worried. He will bring evidence. I'm not worried. I am not worried. I am very, very sure of my position and my stand. All right? I do not say that people in my government were not corrupt. But I am.
Well, let's stop you just there. Are you saying that people in your government were corrupt?
Of course, I will not. Can you say the people in the government of any country are not corrupt?
But I'm talking about senior people. I'm talking about ministers. I'm talking about your closest allies. Do you now believe some of them were corrupt?
Well, my vice president had something to do with Jefferson, which is part of the case in America. I don't know whether corruption has been proved or not, but he had a question to answer.
Is it not a terrible failing? We'll leave aside, perhaps for the courts to decide whether you personally can be held to account for any of this, but do you accept it was a terrible failing for you as president to see inside your government, at the very top of your government, according to your own successor, that there was rampant corruption?
I do not accept that, because if in any government, somebody is found to be corrupt, the onus lie on the head of that government to bring that man to book. When I was the head of government, there's no case of corruption against any minister, any high government official.
But that just shows the system doesn't work.
No, I don't agree with you.
But you've admitted to me that corruption was prevalent in your country when you were president, and yet not one senior official inside your federal government has been convicted of serious corruption.
I do not agree with you. You don't have your facts correct. In my government, 3 ministers were charged to court. In fact, one died in the process. The Inspector General of Police was charged and convicted. The President of the Senate in my own party was charged to court. A Minister of Education was charged to court. What more do you want?
One of those people who currently is under investigation is your own eldest daughter.
Yes,
your own eldest daughter.
Yes, what happened to my eldest daughter?
She is still being investigated by the anti-corruption watchdog inside your own country.
So what? Has he been
Would you accept responsibility for her?
No, why should I? He's old enough. He's a girl of 42 years old. Will you accept responsibility for your son at the age of 21 for whatever he does? Now, don't ask me that type of question. I found it very insulting, with all due respect. Now, you won't ask that type of question to a European leader?
I think you'd find if a European leader, whose daughter was in a European Senate was accused of serious fraud charges, that would not reflect.
That's an allegation. And anything can be alleged. You can be alleged to be a liar. And when it's investigated, if you are not a liar, that is the allegation goes. That's an allegation. And you don't work on allegation.
I said it was an allegation.
Yes, then when you have
what I would ask you before we finish is this: Nigeria is one of the in terms of resources, richest countries in the world. I think you're number 7, number 8 in terms of oil exports in the entire
potentially rich country. We are not.
Well, your oil reserves are proven and they are vast, and yet, according to UN figures, something like 1/3 of your population lives in extreme poverty, and that was the case when you left office. Can you explain why that was the case?
Now, we have oil, but compared with the population of Nigeria, of over 150 million, and the oil that we are getting, compared with any other country, what is the population of Saudi Arabia? We are producing today less than 1.8 million barrels of oil a day. Saudi Arabia is producing 9 million barrels. Now you cannot compare. So, or UAE or Kuwait. So when you make this comparison, make it in the right context.
But would you accept that Nigeria has not utilized the opportunities and resources that it has?
I don't agree with you. Nigeria has used the opportunities and resources that it had to the best of its